7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, and welcome to the next edition of the Vegas Squares Golf Betting Podcast. We are sitting here in the virtual Zoom studio. I got myself, Tony Johnson, and Token Tony, and we are fresh off of the STEWART CINK wire-to-wire at RBC Heritage, just like we drew it up, right, gents?
Exactly. I mean, just word for word what we were predicting last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to look. I mean, I look back on this, Tony, and Stewart Cink's been playing pretty good golf this year and a little bit last year. And I was reading an article that apparently he plays some big money games with some buddies and some executives and stuff. And I guess that's helped him maintain his sharp game. That's been able to help him compete on the PGA Tour this year.
Absolutely, he's certainly a player. I mean, he's won 2 times this season.
Only 2 people do that this year.
It's amazing. It's an amazing feat at his age, and his ability level in regards to driving distance and things along those lines. He's not a terribly long hitter anymore, but it's a testament to, again, we've talked about this before. Making the game challenging, how we're really, really overblown with the whole talk of distance, with the whole talk of all of these guys going younger and longer. And, there's a lot of ways to get it done. And Stu is showing that, to win twice on tour in really one of the better groups of time, at least in my lifetime, I can speak of quality players, put together, and he's winning in these big time fields. Impressive, very, very impressive. And I mean, it was not even just a win; it was a complete, rout. It really was, from the second round on. I mean, he really took over and never really relinquished. So it wasn't necessarily just a win. It reminds me a little bit of Nate Lashley a couple of years ago in Detroit, when he just basically went wire to wire and destroyed the field. And it's great because so many of these players, Stewart is somewhere in the top 100 in the world, but he's nowhere really near the top 30 or 40. And anytime guys really get it going, pretty much anyone, in the top 100 or so in the world, they can lap a field. So it's a lot of fun to watch. I think it's always nice to have good stories. Stewart seems like a really, really decent guy. And, to have his son on the bag again for the second time, which seems like a really good caddy as well. If he's going to go that route, I don't know if he's going to go that route, at least in his life, but really thorough work, really, really good job. And I thought it was a great telecast. I really enjoyed the tournament.
Yeah, actually, I was going to dive into that a little bit down the road here, but we'll talk about that now with his son Reagan on the bag. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't seem like that's necessarily the career path he wants to choose. Apparently, he was hired by Delta Airlines to be an executive, and I guess. But you're right. I mean, everything I'm reading that he's a pretty decent caddy. And Stewart actually came out and said after this that as long as Reagan's interested, he's definitely going to be on the bag for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. But Reagan said, well, I'll honor that because my father asked me to do that, but I don't know if this is my career choice. So that is an interesting kind of prospect. We talked about that with like Westwood and his, girlfriend or fiance on the bag, and how that takes some pressure off of Westwood on a second opinion off. But then you have a flip side here with Stewart Cink's kid, and he's actually pretty good. But I think the pressure of working for someone that's not your father is a little different. Like, working for a guy, working for Tiger Woods probably wasn't the easiest thing to do, especially if you weren't, related to him. But being, hey, I'm going to give my dad my best advice. He's not going to disown his son over a golf tournament. So that takes a little pressure off of that, in my opinion. I think that's kind of those feel good stories. You have the guys who like Spieth And help me with the caddy's name. It was Speed's caddy. That they have such a camaraderie.
Oh,
What's his name? I can't remember his name. Anyways, it's not that important.
No, it's not McGreevy, but
Do you know it, Tony?
Which guy are we talking about? I'm sorry.
Speed's caddy.
Michael Greller.
Greller. Thank you.
Yeah.
You talk about their camaraderie, but at any given time, things can sour and the band can break up.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised he kept him on after these last 3 or 4 years. So that's, it's good to see.
So it's just kind of a cool. It's not something I was ever too truly invested in, but listening to these stories of all the different, caddy, I guess, versions, friends, colleagues, Shoffley's caddy, who's his buddy.
Yep.
I know that you know both of them, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cool to kind of deep dive into those things, and then now you have Stewart Cink's kid, and Stewart Cink's a name that a lot of people know. I mean, Stewart Cink's first win came before Colin Morikawa was born. That's a funny stat, to me.
That is.
It just, I don't know, it makes me feel old, I guess. But
sure. But to jump in a little quickly, Aaron, though, I think the caddy situation you bring up is really important because, as you've mentioned, Lee Westwood's caddy, the fiance or soon-to-be wife, not necessarily a golfer, not really helping in the golfing realm. It's been talked about. Rory's, good friend Harry Diamond, who's been caddying for him now for 3 or 4 years, while he was a golfer. And I think he played in high school or college or whatever the case is. He's not exactly. Again, this is the word that I've heard from some relatively knowledgeable people, especially tour people. That he's just not, a great caddy. It's more of a friend, type of relationship. You hear Stewart and Reagan talk back and forth, and I mean that's a caddy. That there is no question that is a caddy. They are not only working on yardages and spots to hit / miss, but I mean there's a lot of good discussion about strategy and thought and upcoming club selection, where you can leave your next shot. I think. To me, the big difference, and again, I'm not saying that Rory, this is the fault of Harry Diamond, why Rory has not won more often in the last 3 years. No, not at all. He's not hitting the shots. I get it. But I do think that you see a big difference here with the people that are really caddying and really, really taking it, super seriously. They're taking it as a job, where you're not seeing that. Jason Day had his friend caddying for him for about a year or so, and then they split ways pretty quickly after he left. After he kind of removed Colin Swatton, which a lot of people were surprised about, just because it really was a friend. And now Jason has hired, I think, Jason Duffner's older caddy, or what a guy that's been around 30 years, but. That's the tough thing is that it's a happy medium. From you want to have a good relationship and it's really nice, but. I'll say when JP was on Rory's bag, he's now with Victor Perez, that was almost as good as it gets. The old quote in the Masters, "You're Rory fucking McIlroy." Harry Diamond is not telling him that. They don't have that thing, and sometimes Rory needs that. Everybody needs that, and I don't know. That's always been my fear with some of these things, and I thought it was just an interesting point to bring up because Reagan, just as you said, very clearly, and I mean, he seems like not just his son, but I mean, he takes it seriously. He is in depth, and he seems to love it.
Let me ask you: if you were a professional golfer, and obviously this would depend on talent level, or so many different factors, but would you rather, have someone who's there just giving you clubs and washing your balls, no pun intended. Or would you rather have someone who basically is a second mind on the golf course with you? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got to execute a shot.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. And that's a very important comment right there at the end, too. You still have to hit the shot. But, I've always been more the second mind guy. I've never really utilized a caddy all that often in my life. It's never really been much of a thing. Even when I played, a little bit competitively younger, we didn't have caddies, of course, then. So, but it's a second mind thing for me because it's, to me, brainstorming and thoughts in general, whatever subject you're talking about, it's always good to have another mind, another thought, because we just miss things as human beings. And for me, I would want someone that is, I can do distance. I can do, whatever. You know what's interesting? Shane Lowry had, I don't know if it was his wife or it was like a good friend. His caddy had a medical issue and he wasn't around for 2 or 3 months. So he had somebody else. It was just like a friend type of thing. And it was noted that it was like a Lee Westwood thing, just to clean just to do all the standard caddy stuff. But he did all of his distance. He did sort of all that stuff because he didn't, want to have to, deal with that or work with that. And he's talked about it afterwards. His caddy is now back, that it was difficult and he wasn't as good of a golfer just because there was so much more going on. When you have to do distance, when you have to figure out, spots to miss and do all that other stuff, and you're going to miss something. It's just one person.
Definitely harder to execute, especially with more of that layman's work on you. I mean,
I would agree.
I guess the thing is, I think about this, and maybe this would be my mindset, and I'm not obviously a professional golfer, but just know how, in my experience with sports, like if I have a certain thing that I'm thinking of or wanting to do, it's like, say you're lining up over a 200-yard shot here, and you have a thought on how you want to play it, and the caddy has a complete other thought on how to play it. I just wonder if there gets to be a point where, okay, so you have two different ideologies here, and you decide, okay, I'm going to go with, like, say Token's my caddy. I'm going to go with Token's philosophy on this shot, and it's just awful. I feel like that just sours things. I don't know. It's just there's so many different schools of thought. Like I said, so many environmental factors, so many factors going on. I just always, I'm curious when I read these stories. I actually get into them about why someone chooses who they do. I mean, like I said, you said Reagan CINK is knowledgeable. He's great, but at the same time, like I said, if he messes up, it's not like CINK is going to say, you're not my child anymore. That's a different relationship than, like you said, Greller. He's surprised that he stayed on the bag so long. I mean,
I am.
So it's just I've started to get into these caddy player relationships. I didn't think it mattered a lot until we started doing this podcast, and you, Tony, really opened my eyes to really kind of seeing how much it actually does matter. And I will say this, at the Corn Ferry event this weekend, which was a great experience. I know my father-in-law enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. We actually got close enough to listen to them communicate. Now, I didn't know, obviously, the caddies or a lot of the players, but it was a pretty cool experience how a course I've played, and actually a hole we sat on for a little while, that I know that Token, I know you've played it. I don't know if Tony you played it, but it's a hole that basically is a straightforward shot with a dogleg complete left. But if you can carry it enough, which obviously all of them had enough distance too, you can set yourself up with a shot between 125 and 200 yards, depending on where you land. So it was really interesting watching these guys. Some of them almost landed 200 yards away on purpose. And I'm like, me not being good with long irons, I'm like, you're an idiot. But that's, obviously they're way better than I am.
But they're probably hitting a 7-iron almost 180, 200.
No, they were. That wasn't the kind of the point. My philosophy is I'd rather be 125 than 200 any day, and just deal with whatever shot comes there. That wasn't their mindset, So,
and also with the wind, how much wind you have has a factor on how much distance you want to have into the pin too.
Yeah. Speaking of wind, a funny story from the MGM Resorts at Paiute. Jamie Lovemark tees off on the first hole. I think I told you guys this, and the ball just pushes right into the desert. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Fucking wind, man." And I'm just like, I say that too when I play here.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It was howling on Sunday for sure. I hope they bring that back, but I know that, Tony, you made a point that there may be enough players to complain that may not come back. But fingers crossed, because that was a pretty cool experience. And saw your boy Josh Teeter.
Nice.
Which was pretty cool. Awesome. I know that's your boy. So, but again, congratulations to Stewart CINK, moving on from the RBC heritage here. A couple things that we can talk about with this, not related to Stewart CINK. Harold Varner almost got there. Had him at 125-1 this week. Didn't really know if he'd get a sweat. He never really got close enough for a sweat, but congratulations to him. And DJ, another kind of, he had a good weekend.
Yeah, he did. But
it's just not what we expect from him. We expect him to be contending, and it just really wasn't. So I mean, we're okay with that. You're not going to contend every week, but
that was our expectation for this tournament, wasn't it? Roughly,
it was ours. Yes, I say from a casual person.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You expect the number one golfer in the world to kind of be there. And it just seemed with Thursday and Friday, he just wasn't there. I mean, he shot 66 on Sunday, and that was great, but it just didn't.
He wasn't in the mix.
Yeah, he's just kind of. I don't know if he's just trying to figure something out because he missed the cut at the Masters, and then here he shot well. I mean, he shot 10 under. It's not, I think, 9 or 10 under.
It's decent.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's not conducive of what we expect from the number one golfer in the world. So. One thing I did want to talk about here, obviously this is the preview show for the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, and they're going to be at TPC Louisiana, which is a kind of unique event. We talked about this, about a month ago when they did the match play, and we talked about majors, and this is kind of the non-major version of the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup and stuff, and we get the team play, which we had talked about a month ago on seeing alternate versions of major championships. So we're going to talk about that obviously today, but I wanted to talk about this thing that was just released recently, and it's called the Player Impact Program, which I think it was actually released today as we're recording. And I want to get your all's thoughts on this because it sounds like a cool concept, but just like anything in the world, there are going to be people who find the problem or dissension in anything. So I'll just briefly give a synopsis here. The PGA Tour basically has created a $40 million bonus pool that will be structured. I don't know the exact structure yet, but it's designed to compensate its players based on popularity. I would almost imagine is the overall umbrella word, but it's designed to compensate their players who drive sponsor and fan engagement to the PGA Tour. Now, the big con on that, I guess, just reading these articles, initial con is guys who are competent on tour or who can win on tour, who can stay on tour, but aren't the sexiest names, maybe even like Stewart CINK, our previous winner. This means nothing to guys like that. So basically what I've understood is there are going to be 10 beneficiaries of this $40 million prize pool, and it will be rewarded to players who are quote unquote moving the needle in the world of golf. It's basically the most, most valuable player, popularity wise, will receive $8 million, and then it will be structured down by that. They are going to give each golfer an impact score designed from, I know we talked about this, designed from 6 separate metrics designed to quantify their value. And I'll read those to you, and I kind of want to get your y'all's takes on this. And I mean, at the end of the day, my thought process is, hey, cool, if you've got the money to do it and give the players or reward the players, fine. But I can understand, some other players. There's already some anonymous players that are dissenting to this, and I can understand why. The 6 metrics will be their season-ending FedEx Cup ranking, their popularity in Google search histories, their Nielsen brand exposure rating, which places a value on the exposure a player delivers to sponsors through the exact number of minutes they are featured on broadcasts. That's oddly specific. Their Q rating, which measures familiarity and appeal of a player's brand to fans. Their MVP index rating, I'm assuming that's most valuable player, which calibrates the value of engagement that each player drives across social media and digital channels. And this one I've never heard of. They're meltwater mentions. Has anyone heard of meltwater mentions?
Nope.
I've not.
They're meltwater mentions, or the frequency which a player generates coverage across all media platforms. So there's some kind of algorithm there that is probably about as easy to figure out as the algorithm for comps at a craps table.
Yeah, pretty close. That's a good comparison, yeah.
So your initial thoughts on this program, like I said, my initial thoughts are, cool, if you got the money to give out, I mean, who am I to say that anyone doesn't deserve money? But I understand there have been several anonymous players. We don't know who they are, but I'm just going to guess, probably guys like Stewart CINK and others who have said, well, it's basically, I don't know, Patrick Reed draws engagement, whether it's positive or negative. So he may be in that, play for some of the money.
That mix.
But it's just basically they feel it's a shoe-in money grab for those at the top. It's extremely hard to break in that category if you're not already in it. And it says, for example, they show the same people on TV all the time.
Yep.
You always see the same groups. How is this fair to us? Unless we are at the top or being chased down by these guys, you'll never see us on broadcast. There's some other quotes by unnamed sources as well. So I just kind of want to get your takes on this. I mean, positive, negative, I think it has both, but I want to know how you guys feel, Token.
I think it's kind of positive, and it will help some of the kind of struggling golfers right now, maybe for more income and all that, even though especially one that I can mention that's probably going to be up on this list almost every year is going to be Ricky Fowler, with how much airtime he has with endorsements and all that, and how much social networking he has.
Sure.
He's got a good following, and he's definitely been struggling, and maybe this is something to help that will lead to him helpful improvement on the golf course. So.
But one could argue with Ricky Fowler, a lot of his recognition is basically just because of his outlandish outfits.
Yes.
And, he kind of had that Justin Bieber baby face kind of on the tour. Still to an extent does, except when he wears his pedo stash. But, I could argue, just playing devil's advocate, that because Ricky Fowler does wear outlandish clothing, and which is kind of one of the things that made him popular, now we're rewarding him for being mediocre. So his performance is not dictating any part of this player impact program. But at the same time, that's not what this pool is designed for. It's your impact. It's not your success. You're getting paid for being successful when you win tournaments or place high. So it's an interesting kind of twist. I can see the other side of this where people are like, well, I got no shot. We can name off some names that we actually bet week to week that would probably never sniff this top 10 of this player impact program.
I would say even more so than that. I mean, it's not just for the middling to low run players. I think there's some of the top players who may not have attached their name to some of the quotes that you gave out there, Aaron, are probably in the same boat. There are guys like Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele that are incredibly good players. Top 15 players in the world, no doubt, and they're not going to see really any of this money. And they're great players. So it is, as you said, a popularity contest in a way. And again, I'm generally pretty open in regards to the world of economics, as you had said earlier. If you have the money to give away and that's what you want to do and you're a business, then, you do how you see fit. I understand that. I'm not necessarily opposed in that regard, but, do I think it's a good thing necessarily? And, would I be, behind it? No, I don't like this, very much. Again, if you have the money to give away, I'd like to see the money given away to results oriented, based on the merit of golf. A lot of this, I hate to say this, has to do with, physical, looks matter. To a lot of these metrics that you brought up, it's a thing. And, that's not a lot of things you can control there. Ricky Fowler is as popular as he is, partly because, he is a good-looking guy, and he had a lot going on, and that's just the way it is, and Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele are not exactly in the same boat. That's nothing wrong with them. It's just that's the way it is. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this in general, but again, the tour is going to do what they want to do. If they think this is their best way to grow, to make more money, and to get more eyeballs on the sport and what's going on, then do as you see fit. So I'm kind of straddling both sides, I guess, in a way there, but it's a little bit unfortunate because I just want to see merit, being the highlight story. I know that that's not always necessarily the case, but Stewart CINK winning twice in a 7-month span, to me, that should be headline news. That should be on the front page of the USA Today sports section, and not all of this other stuff, whatever. Again, I know golf is golf and it is what it is, but that to me is an unbelievable thing that's happened. I mean, that's unbelievable. Ricky Fowler hasn't even finished in the top 10 in an event in 7 months, and Stewart CINK's won 2. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I'm different, though. I absolutely love the game. I'm obsessed. I'm a weird guy. I know I'm not exactly who the tour is going for. So
no, but I can see that. I can see that opinion and that angle. And honestly, I think, like you said, it's a business. That's what they are. They're marked. They're all about money. And if that's who they want to give it to, I completely understand it. I actually wonder if if you could argue the flip side, use this money instead of actually just giving it to a golfer, maybe use this $40 million to pimp your other golfers. Like you said, Stewart CINK has won twice this year. I mean, Token, can you name – there's only one other guy who's won twice on tour. Can you name him?
Who is it?
I tell you what, he's a player who may be impacted by this player impact program.
Yeah,
DJ?
I think it's DeChambeau.
It's Bryson DeChambeau.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you talk about Bryson DeChambeau, who's all over everywhere, positively or negatively.
Yeah.
And Stewart CINK, who are, you could argue, one's a major. I understand that it's the U.S. Open, but we got 2-time winners here. They're not. One's marketed far more. I mean, Stewart CINK's been around a while. He's obviously had plenty of chances to market himself and play well. But I wonder if, like you said, getting guys like Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, you wonder if Schauffele or Cantlay or Victor Hovland wore crazy clothes like Ricky Fowler wore orange pants every week. Would you know the guy? I mean, Tiger for the Sunday Red, obviously, for other things, but Ricky for the colorful outfits.
And their personalities too, Aaron. Xander's a very, very quiet guy. Cantlay very much seems that way too. But Xander is for sure. That's just his personality. He's a reserved guy.
Yeah, but you wonder if this money can be spent to market those guys. Now, it's the same with Mike Trout. Mike Trout. They say Mike Trout's the face of the league.
Yes.
I don't know if he is.
He doesn't really
want
knows.
to. He doesn't, and he doesn't really want to be the face of the league.
Right.
So you can kind of argue this.
It's a good comparison.
And if they don't want to do these things, then that's fine. The consequence is you're not going to be involved in this player impact program, and that's fine. But the way that those guys can get into these 6 metrics is by performing well. I mean, we look at the Masters on Sunday. Schauffele was all over it. So as one of the metrics being minutes you're on the broadcast,
that's true.
That's how he can get himself in there. Now, in the other metrics, will he fall far behind? Maybe so. We never know. So I'm just curious about this. I feel like you said, at the end of the day, they can do whatever they want with their money, and that's fine. But I just kind of thought about it. Having that kind of money to invest in the other players on tour, or invest in making the Korn Ferry Tour, making the LPGA Tour. Now I know they're different, but making other tours a little bit more accessible. I know they're going to this partnership with Amazon as well. That's going to bring in a bunch of money too. Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways to have, I don't know, there's ways to grow the game, which depending on which article you read, golf's never been in a better spot, or golf's, dying out and no one cares about it. So maybe we can find a way to have those golf's dying, no one cares about articles disappear. So I don't know. We'll see. It's an interesting concept. I mean, there's really nothing to it. I didn't want to bring out the whole, crying about it and everything. If this is what the tour wants to do, then maybe these guys, I mean, there's no other time in history where you could find every single avenue to market yourself.
True. And maybe they'll adjust, Aaron. Maybe you're right. Maybe we'll get some adjustment. Maybe we'll see Xander more on social media, and he'll spend 3 extra days of a year doing some commercials, because those are hard to do.
Who's he sponsored by? What does he play?
Callaway. Yeah.
Okay.
Callaway, I think a whole bag, I believe. So. And
Callaway doesn't have. I mean, Callaway has guys, but Callaway doesn't have a ton of guys they market.
Yeah. No.
I feel like TaylorMade and Titleist, and even back in the day, Nike to an extent was always marketing their guys, and maybe that's why we know them. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe Callaway will get on board with this and maybe market Xander Schauffele. I know that he's definitely an up and coming, if not already here, star on the golf tour. It's just be nice that other people would know him. But you're right. People who watch golf and are fans know who Xander Schauffele is. The difference is, I think, like you said, Ricky's a good-looking guy who wears crazy outfits. Yeah. And Tiger Woods was a barrier breaker of sorts. So Bryson DeChambeau, for better or for worse, is the big Hulk. Hulkamania with outlandish quotes about Augusta. And, so there's a reason guys are – I mean, Dustin Johnson, you could argue, is known to the common person because of his wife and his cocaine addiction. Past cocaine addiction. Yeah,
the wife especially. I think she drives a lot.
She's an incredibly popular person as well, and her dad is. I think he's known by a few people as well. So
just a couple.
It's a good point.
But let's move into this Zurich Classics. Turn the page on this player impact program. We'll maybe come back to that. We'll see how it goes in a year and see who who are the recipients, the 10 recipients of this money, and
There you go.
kind of and see if maybe there was a success. I'm curious to see the guys just outside and who they might be, and if they're not your typical Koepka's, Rorys, and Tigers of the world, which is also another thing. I mean, Tiger Woods could be on this list every year and never play golf again.
True.
Yeah.
That's another crazy thing I didn't even think about until just now. So, all right, tag team back again. We got the Zurich Classic of New Orleans here from TPC Louisiana, which ironically I have the PGA Tour 2021 game on my PlayStation. Just played this one recently. I won it, by the way, but it was not a tag team event, which I thought was weird. So there's the game's just not that realistic, I guess.
It would have been hilarious if they paired you with Norn.
Oh yes,
Or Doug
yes,
Gim.
that should have happened. Norn or Gim for sure.
This event was canceled last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, along with a lot of other tournaments. But the defending quote-unquote champions are Ryan Palmer and John Rahm, who shot in 26 under in 2019 and beats the runner-up Tommy Fleetwood and Sergio Garcia, another Spaniard guy there. But this is different than other events. We just talked about it. We have kind of an alternate day format. We have now, Tony, you may have to, because they've switched this sometimes.
Yes.
It's basically 2 alternate shot days and 2 best ball days. Now they've argued back and forth on what Sunday should be, and sometimes it's been alternate shot, sometimes it's been best ball. But basically there is a format where there is 2 days alternate shot, 2 days best ball. I don't know what we're going with this year. So maybe you can enlighten me on a little bit of that.
Sure. So it is as you said. So the first and the third rounds will be 4-ball, which is called best ball. In the more layman term circles, and then the second and fourth rounds will be foursomes, which will be that alternate shot style, and then the foursomes deal, like in most foursomes type of events, you will switch off who tees off every hole. So one player will get the even holes, one player will get the odd holes. You get to choose who starts that first hole. So there is definitely some strategy there. You'll look at the scorecard, you'll try to map it out, figure out who might have the best type of tee shots and wherever the par threes maybe fall on, and the par fives, et cetera, et cetera. So it's that'll be interesting. And as you said, I was going to bring this up too, Aaron. So yeah, good call on your behalf. They have kind of altered what that fourth round is going to be. I think it was mostly just what's best for TV type of stuff. Do you want both guys playing a ball, or do you want one ball for two players? And it looks like they have decided. Again, this is not in stone certainly, but it looks like the PGA Tour did mention something a few months ago that they have done some research. They've thought about it. They do think that foursomes play is more entertaining and it's more interesting on the back nine on Sunday. So they are going to go with that, at least for the time being, depending upon what happens. But and
I agree with them. I think 4 players playing a hole over 2 players is better for TV.
I agree. I think it's kind of fun. So I kind of like it. So we'll do that. There's also the old thing that comes into what golf ball gets played, because different guys have different sponsors. It's a whole ball of wax. And again, I wish I could be the guy like, oh, these guys are prima donnas, they're weird, whatever. I mean, I'll be honest with you, especially when I used to play a lot more golf, you can tell a difference. I can feel it off of kind of any club, but especially around the green. It matters. It matters a lot. And, again, just even taking like a Pro V1 ball versus like the TaylorMade TP ball, which I prefer, those balls react differently off of shots from a wedge from 30 yards and in. For me, I feel a big difference, and it affects play for me. And I'm not a tour player, and I'm not saying that I can tell even more so than they can. They probably can much more than me. So that's always interesting too. You'd like to see guys that are paired that maybe have the same equipment, the same ball, because it does make things maybe slightly easier.
Yeah, totally fair. Token, if you had an opinion, or if you were on the committee on making a decision here, would you want best ball or foursomes, or would you want alternate shot?
I think, in my opinion, alternate shot is definitely more like wire, especially on Sunday. But however, 4-ball, more of the average golfer can relate on, and is very entertaining, and gives the opportunity for guys to get more of that risk-reward factor going.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, like I said, it's maybe not the best for TV because you have half the shots and half the coverage. But I kind of like the thought of alternate shot, being the deciding factor for a tournament. I kind of dig that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've got a light action week this week. I know between the three of us, and it's just hard, to figure out. You can have a team that you feel good about, and one guy may just not carry the load. But we're definitely going to give you guys some bets this week. To start with the course outline of TPC Louisiana, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Tony Johnson, as he does every week. Give us the breakdown and what we should look for here at the Zurich Classic.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is another one of those great TPC courses. I know we play about 15 of these probably per season on the TPC from the TPC network, and this is another gem, another really, really good one. They've been playing at TPC Louisiana in Avondale, just outside of New Orleans now for many years. They did undergo a second major renovation of this course. This was after 2019. In fact, 2 days after Rahm and Palmer got it done. It was one of those that was going to be tough. They weren't sure they were going to make it within a year because they were doing full drainage redo and definitely some greens, bunkers, things along that. But the drainage was the big deal there. So. Thankfully, I guess in that sense, they didn't have to rush through it. Or, unthankfully, we didn't have golf, but they were able to at least get everything done. The course looks really, really nice. Again, I just saw some pictures, a little bit of video on the Golf Channel from Tuesday. It looks really, really good, but we don't really have all that data that we usually have. I know I like to give the, fairway width, things like that, but they have changed a little bit in the course, and I don't necessarily have all that. But we do have an idea of what they've done, so we will go through that. It is a little bit longer than it was before the redo, so still a par 72, 7,425 yards. A couple of holes have been increased. Looks like they moved around a couple of tee boxes on par 5 on the front 9, number 3, and par 4, number 14 on the back 9. Look like they're about 20 to 25 yards longer. Also added Bermuda grass here, both to the fairways and to the greens. Now the greens are overseeded. It's Tiff Eagle Bermuda, which tends to be the more difficult to read. We just talked about that in this last week here at Hilton Head, but it is overseeded fully. So basically, you're gonna have a mix. Essentially, it's two grasses in one on the green, and it's overseeded for a couple of reasons. The first is just for general care. It's a little bit easier to care when you have multiple grasses and there's not this battle. And if you have an issue and there's some sort of weed that comes in and you can't get rid of it, you really don't have any grass. Whereas if you have two, it's a little bit easier to maintain. And secondly, I think it's the weather. The weather, it's so tropical and gets so dry there that I think having the overseed is just a little bit healthier for the grass. But I know that's not really what we're getting into, but it won't roll. We're not going to see putts that kind of jump around a little bit, reading all that grain like we saw on last week's telecast. We're not going to see that as much. Still not necessarily easy per se, but a little bit different in that sense. They are trying to get these things at 12.5 on the stimp meter. They want them to run pretty quickly. As we would expect in this area of the country, especially around this time, we are going to see some rain, probably Friday and Saturday at least. Hopefully no major delays, but I'm not quite sure they can keep that 12.5 on the stimp. If they can, it's going to get really interesting because that's pretty quick, even for tour standards. And these are not easy greens. They are very undulating, and they are segmented a little bit. There are some levelings to these greens, which again is give the tour credit even more so that I think a tournament like this, when you have sort of difficult greens and you have different levels, it will even go more so to the fact that you'll have teams taking risks, especially if you can have two guys in a decent spot. You'll have one guy, really, really go after the pin, even if it's not a great, spot. Another guy maybe play it safe. But we want to see all these shots. We want to see guys take on, hole locations where if this was a regular tour event, we probably wouldn't see some people take on some of these hole locations. So I think it's a great spot, really. They found a really, really good tournament to have this partner event. 12 bunkers completely redone. Many of them are going to be reshaped, a little bit bigger. Players have not seen these before. So it will be interesting, I think. It's going to have a little bit of a new flavor, a new course kind of look for some guys. There are going to be at least 4 holes with new hole locations that are completely unseen as well. We have not seen in years past. And The nice thing, though, is the rough will be less than 2 inches. They say 1.75 inches on the rough here, so won't be much of an issue if you are missing fairways, although the fairways are pretty wide. Looks like they're going to be about 28 yards wide on average. Again, we don't know the exact numbers because, again, it's relatively new, but that's where we're at. So, again, of course, that's gettable. The main defense, as we would expect, is weather, is rain, and is just extremely hot, conditions. And, it's really interesting. When this was a regular stroke play event, always one I enjoyed a lot. So looking forward to that. Now, let's get quickly to what we're looking for, at least what I should say, what I'm looking for, what I tried to garner from this, and looking over the last 2 or 3 years since this has been a partners event. I like having the combination of guys that where you have a bomber, you have maybe more of an aggressive player, you have more of a streaky kind of guy versus more of a grinder as well. If you can get that kind of combination, John Rahm, Ryan Palmer, great example there, of Rahm, a guy that's always going to keep his foot on the gas, is always going to pull the driver when he can. He's so accurate with it anyway. And Ryan Palmer is, again, just an old school Texas grinder, fantastic iron player, really accurate driver of the ball. And you can count on him, to hit certain shots in certain times. So I think that type of thing is really, really good. Added to that, not just that, but I think we've seen a lot of the recent winners here and a lot of guys that have done really well. I've went through the top 10 of the last 3 years as well. Tons of European combinations here. And why is that? Well, a lot of the European players tend to stick together. They tend to share meals together, share rooms. It is a very close-knit community. Why they win the Ryder Cup so often. It gets talked about a lot is that they play together. It's a very close-knit community there. So I also am looking for guys for European combinations. We see many of those as well this week too. And again, next is precision on approach. We talked about the greens being undulating and segmented. Precision, very, very critical here. So if anything, I'm looking for good iron players, for guys that have been closest to the hole. A lot of proximity statistics I looked at here recently. Guys have been playing well even out in Europe because we got a lot of European players here, Asian players this week. So that's the type of stuff here. Again, streaky guys, streaky players. When in doubt, I'm trying to find something like that. Guys that belong to the same club. There's a group, a twosome I'm going to bring up that belong to the same club and play together in Texas. Things like that. But again, we're throwing darts this week. Let's be honest. I don't know if I'm going to even play very many matchups. I don't really see the whole point of it, but I think there's a couple of spots. We'll just throw a dart here or there with some groups. But honestly, fun. I really like partner events. I remember playing these things, and everything I just said about what I think we can look for is, again, in my earlier competitive, junior golfing times when playing in partner events, which were very common. That is when at least I felt the best, when I did the best, and when other people were doing the best, is when you not only necessarily have a friend or somebody you like that you're playing with, but you work off well together. You have different types of games, and it makes a lot of sense. And, but I love this event. I'm glad they have it, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's fun for me too. I like to see, the different varieties of golf other than just straight stroke play, which, don't get me wrong, I still love. But I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this on the other side of the commercial break, but I'm kind of low in the matchups as well, and I'm taking a few swings for the moon on some futures. But we are going to take a quick commercial break here. I want to thank our sponsors, obviously, who help support our show. First and foremost, 12 Ounce Sports Network, where we are broadcasted in both audio and video formats. If you're watching us, we are also on YouTube. You can search Vegas Squares Podcast. By the way, you're going to want to watch this YouTube because Token's got to pay push-ups today.
Oh, yeah.
Also, you can visit the store at 12ouncesportsnetwork.com. They've got everything from coffee mugs to beach towels, phone cases, and, of course, they've got these brand – I just ordered this golf polo myself. It's a very nice I ordered two, actually. I got a black one as well. They actually – I'm not a big cotton knit polo fan, but this is really light and breezy and airy, and this doesn't feel like bulky, the logo. It feels real nice, and so you can catch those. I think they're about $22, $23. They're not even that bad.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so real nice 12-ounce sports network polos, etc. Obviously, our sponsors, our title sponsors, Vice Golf and Fanatics. You can check those out at lvsquares.com. Please click the dedicated link there on lvsquares.com when you shop, because we receive a small commission from when you buy things from fanatics.com and also Vice Golf. The Heater Bet tracking app where you can keep track of all of your bets, kind of like an action network, so to speak. But it is free, and it helps you with live in-play scoring, live in-play betting, and all of your bankroll management. InTheHoleGolf.com and Pro-Am Customs, also sponsors as well. I want to thank them. So let's go ahead and let 12 Ounce Sports pay the bills. We'll be back in about 2-3 minutes on the other side we'll talk about the groups, we'll talk about our bets, and we'll talk about paying out some push-ups. We'll be right back.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
All right, and we are back with the Vegas Squares Golf Betting Podcast here. We are previewing the Zurich Classic of New Orleans from TPC, Louisiana, the tag team event here. We've got a little bit of best ball, a little bit of alternate shot. And like I said, it is a tag team event. And so we've got some names that some of them you wouldn't expect to be together. Some of them make some interesting pairing combinations. And some of them you're just really excited to see. Token, for you, what are the group/teams that you're super looking forward to watch? I know that Louis Oosthuizen and Charles Schwartzel,
my goodness.
you're just salivating
Absolutely. Definitely on my radar to watch. Unfortunately, no other information on that one later on this podcast.
Where are your hands? Hands where I can see them. Where are your hands thinking about that pairing? Hands where I can see them.
I like the on-in tag team in that one.
Benny On, Sung J.M.
I like that one too. That's great stuff.
And then another one that's kind of interesting to me is Tringali and Castro.
Interesting.
I can tell you this, though. I will not be on him this week.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Bad pun. So, Tony, what are some teams that you're looking forward to watching this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would be remiss to not start with the Schauffele-Cantley group, where we just talked about those two guys. So, that's really, really interesting. Now, those guys did play some junior golf coming up together. They were some of the better junior golfers in the area of Southern California there. Cantley more in the LA area, Schauffele in the San Diego area. So they've known each other for a long time. And, again, very similar kind of personalities. They get along really well. That's a really, really interesting pairing. I'm glad that happened. I'm a little bit surprised they're not the favorites, although I think in some spots they are. Some spots they are the favorites, or it's at least close with the John Rahm, Ryan Palmer deal. But yeah, I mean, those are two, just incredible players. That's a type of team where if one guy really gets it going, it doesn't actually matter a ton about the other guy in the first and third round, in the 4-ball rounds, just because they're just so good, especially with their irons, both of those guys. So that's really, really great stuff there. Another one I'm intrigued by. He's not exactly necessarily the most well-liked guy of our podcast group, but Bubba Watson, Scotty Scheffler group, to me is really interesting because those are two guys. Talk about some bombers in that group. That's a really, really interesting one too. I don't know those two guys, how they know each other. Maybe it's just something they got together, whatever the case is. But interesting to see how that's going to go. Bubba Watson in this type of he's really enjoyed this event, which is a little bit surprising to me. But he hasn't really finished all that well. Most of the time. So I don't know how he would be in a team type of atmosphere, but also kind of interesting. And then I think third and finally, certainly something that I know we've talked about before, but Colin Morikawa and Matthew Wolff grouped together. We've talked about Wolfie and the struggles and the injuries and the things that have gone on and how he's really sort of gone off the rails a little bit from where we saw him last year. Maybe a few months down the road, after we had gotten to the restart. It looks like he's lost a little bit in maybe a few different ways. But again, Colin Morikawa, having him as a partner, I mean, could you find really a better partner when things are kind of, off the rails, you're not really sure what's going on, and you could choose a guy, he'd be in the top 5 probably of a guy you'd want to choose as a nice, good, calming presence, influence, just all around, fantastic player. Really, really good stuff there. So another pairing that they have played very strong competitive golf with each other. I believe they met in, I want to say it was the U.S. Junior Am or might have been the U.S. Amateur. I don't know, but they have actually played each other before. That's how they got to know each other when they were 14 or 15. So kind of a funny story there. But so I'm looking forward to seeing that group. And I just want to see Wolfie if he can get it back going because he's just such a fun player to watch. And, I've really been, I think we all are really rooting for him to kind of do well and get back playing great golf again. So those are the 3 groups that I saw that kind of just stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a lot of storylines here on how these guys, Colin Morikawa and Matthew Wolff, obviously, are the one of the more popular groupings. Xander Schauffele and Cantlay, you talking about growing up together. You talked about the Europeans aspect with Rose and Stenson, Tyrrell Hatton and Danny Willett.
Yes.
But for me, a couple of them that I'm super interested in, obviously Victor Hovland, Ventura, Oklahoma State boys. I like the Sam Burns, Billy Horschel pairing. I want to watch them this week. You did talk about the Bubba Watson, Scotty Scheffler. I was interested. I like watching Scheffler play, and I like Gary. How do you say what's his real name? Gary?
Who are we talking about? Woodland?
Bubba Watson. No, Bubba Watson.
Oh,
I think his real name's Gary.
Is it really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I like Bubba Watson. I know you guys don't, but necessarily, but. The 2 I'm most looking forward to seeing one is Tony Finau and Cam Champ. I like Tony Finau. He gets he doesn't give the best love here on the podcast and some other podcasts, but I like watching Tony Finau. And Cam Champ's, when he's playing well, I like watching him play too. And another one, just because simply of last weekend, Korn Ferry MGM champion Peter Uihlein is paired with Richie Werenski here. This week. I'm kind of interested in watching that because I watched Uihlein for 9 holes, and he seems to kind of not take life too seriously. He's got a little smile on his face the whole way. I mean, leading by 5 strokes all day was kind of nice, but he was kind of a fun guy to watch, and it's nice to be able to attach yourself, your interest to some of these players. So he's paired up with Richie Werenski. Oh, I'm gonna butcher that name. Richie Werenski. He's paired up with Werenski. No, fuck it. He's paired up with Richie this week.
and Bubba's real name is Jerry.
Is it Jerry or Gary? Okay, so it's Jerry Watson. Gerry.
Yeah.
So, so that's another pairing. Richie and Peter Uihlein this week. They may show up in my bets too. So we have to stay tuned for that. So, speaking of that, we'll jump right into the futures market. And I'll go first. I'll just say, because I kind of foreshadowed it. I'm taking 2 swings at the fence here. I may have some more bets closer to the actual start of the tournament, but a little lower down in the categories. And actually, Tony, if you got the Circa odds up, I'd love to know what they are over there.
Absolutely, I'm ready.
The first one obviously is Peter Uihlein and Richie W. I'm not going to try that name again. At 85-1 here on William Hill.
All right, let me get to that part here. You have 85. All right. Okay, you 90.
Okay, not too bad. And the other one, which is an unlikely duo, if you've got any information on this, on how they became paired, I'd love to know. is Scott Piercy and Akshay Bhatia at 125 to 1.
Oh, it's amazing because I thought the exact same thing when I was looking at all the pairings. It's like, how does that even happen? I mean, the age gap, of course. I thought maybe Bhatia had some sort of Las Vegas connection or something like that because I know Piercy is sort of from here and still lives here, but I didn't see anything there either. I don't know. We got 135 over here at Circa.
Okay.
Don't know. So that one would have been, so basically how some of these pairings had to happen is it's if you have, it went by, tour, what do you call it? Where you are in regards to being able to get into events. So Piercy has he's got a full tour card. Bhatia doesn't. So it would have had to have been that Piercy chose Bhatia, or Piercy was the one that got in, and Bhatia is the add-on. Bhatia could not have gotten into this tournament by himself, by merit. So that's even more interesting that Piercy chose Bhatia. So yeah, I have no idea, Aaron. I actually don't know. I kind of looked very briefly, couldn't find anything, and I just moved on. So
yeah, you wonder if Piercy originally had someone else that he was going to play with, and it just didn't because he won this event 3 years ago with Billy Horschel.
Correct. Right.
And then now Billy Horschel is with Sam Burns. So you wonder if the band broke up or something.
Yes. Oh, that's good stuff. Well, I mean, yeah, it's probably hey, if you can find a better player, nothing against Scott Piercy, but I think we would sort of surmise that Sam Burns is certainly on the rise up in his career, and Piercy may not be. So I can't blame Billy Horschel for trying to find the best chance to win.
Stupid Florida Gator guys, assholes. All right, Token, what do we got in the futures market here for you?
Mentioning one that you've already kind of mentioned, but not on the futures, is Sam Burns and Billy Horschel at 20-1. I like that duel. I mean, Sam Burns definitely on the up and up. Horschel, past experience here, definitely does help a little. And Burns, I think they make a good tag team for this course. So
sure, I agree with that. Yeah, I looked at them as well. Like I said, I took some swings at the fence. I may look, in the more because Palmer and Rahm, if they're playing super well, that's going to be a tough one to beat. But exactly. At 7-1, I just wasn't really feeling that. So I mean, I may take a look, but yeah, I kind of I looked at that Burns Horschel pairing. Yeah. I like that bet.
And then my other one, just kind of like a flyer, but the one aspect I like in this one, we got Martin Layer and Nick Taylor. I like Taylor. I mean, he's got definitely enough distance to make an impact in this group for definitely the 4-ball, and especially if they can figure out who's going to play what tees on the alternate shot and who's going to make more of a difference in that. It's definitely going to be a big impact if they can figure that out.
Yep. Antonio, what do you have in the double-digit futures market here?
Yeah, so I've got two guys in double digits, one in the triple. Again, I'm just sort of throwing darts. I don't claim to really have much of a specific way of handicap because I don't really know if there is. I really don't think there is. There's a couple of bettors that I talk to. One that I talk to every week who is relatively well known in the circles, and I have happened to be able to pick his brain a little bit. He doesn't even fire this week on this tournament, and I can't blame him. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into the realm of trying to figure out where we go. So
I'm trying to handicap two guys for one bet. It's just I agree. We should probably just tell you that like we told you, it's a light week. It's
absolutely. Yeah, so I'm going with the Oklahoma State Norwegians. I got Hovland Ventura at 35-1. Why not? I actually like the comparable games that they both have. I think that's kind of nice. Ventura is just such a big, strong player, big hitter, and Victor Hovland really just has not much that can go wrong in his game. So
somewhere right now, John Parr is smiling.
I'm sure
exactly.
I'm sure he's very happy. One of these that just kind of looks sort of weird off the surface. Why are they this low? And I don't know if it is too low. I don't know if it's too high. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and go with Thomas Peters and Tom Lewis. Again, a European sort of combo again. Peters playing almost exclusively now in Europe. but he started to play a lot better. I was looking at some of the numbers over there in Europe. His greens and regulation numbers are really good. He's starting to really put it together. And Tom Lewis just had another nice week. I think in a spot that doesn't necessarily fit his game. He's been a really good player now for about a year and a half here over on tour. I think he either got to the Tour Championship or almost did last year, very quietly. Good young player from Great Britain. I'm going to go with these guys, 55-1. Peters tends to be a bit of a streaky player. Tom Lewis is pretty consistent, but we'll go with that. And those are my two that I have in the double digits.
Yeah, go ahead and fire. You guys have long shots? I don't know if Token said his. No? You said
I
you
have
had one. I
got
fired my
one.
long shot with Bati and
okay.
Piercy.
There you go. Yep. So the one I have is Andrew Landry and Austin Cook. We got him 150 here at William Hill, 175 at Circa. This is all streakiness. Now, these two guys do belong to the same club in Dallas. I'm not quite sure that Austin Cook is living in Dallas full-time, but again, they must see each other. They must play a little bit. I know they have been friends before. They played college golf competitively against each other. One went to Arkansas. The other went to, I want to say TCU or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a comfortable pairing, in that sense. And this is the type of this is the area of the country where they tend to do their best work. Andrew Landry's won twice on tour. He's won both times sort of in this area. I think once in Texas, once somewhere in this realm in the Southeast. Austin Cook, same thing. So, yeah, we're going to go with it, kind of hope for the best. Very streaky players, extremely. Landry was 3 for 3 last week in this tournament, leading into averaging a top 20, I think it was like 27th or 28th. He's really, really good at Hilton Head, and he did the same thing. He made the cut, and he finished like 25th. So, it's one of those guys that when he has it going, he can really put it together. So we'll go with them, 175-1 at Circa. Hope for the best. I laughed while making that bet. I made that bet in person today. One of my favorite ticket writer from Circa has moved to the Circa location across the street from where I live, out here near the Strip. So that's a fantastic thing, and we had a good laugh about that because he bets golf, and he's like, "Who are these two guys?" He just bets kind of the big names, and I was like, "I'm just going with it. I'm lighting a bunch of money on fire." He goes, "You're a good place to do it." So,
Yep.
yeah, why not? We'll have some fun with that one.
Yeah, totally fair. So, all right, let's move into the matchups here. Token, what do you got?
Hopefully a better week than last week because I went 0-2-1. Yeah. Hey, at least I got a push.
Hooray!
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So I think if you make like 5 bets at a sports book and you go 0-4-1, I think that's worse because you actually have to go back to the book and get your one bet.
Tough.
Oh, yeah. I'm going back to make other bets. So
all right. We'll light the money on fire this week. What we got?
Yep. We got the team of Tringali and Castro over Brown and Kisner at even money. I saw a lot of good value on that one. That's probably my favorite play of the matchups this week. My second favorite one.
I'll throw a push-it bet out on that because I actually looked at that bet on the Kiz and Brown side.
Isn't Scott Brown, was he a part of the winning team one of those years, right? I think
he was runner-up.
Second? Okay.
Yeah, they were runner-up. They were runner-up to Blix and Smith.
Oh, when they hold out. Didn't Jonas hole out for the win, I think? Yeah, that was nuts.
I'll tell you what. Since I have the dog, I'll do 4 for 4.
I was going to say a 3-2. I don't know if I can get to 4. I was just glad I didn't lose this week.
3-3 then.
Okay, 3-3. All right, I'll take a favorite at even money, I guess. Even push-up money. So okay, What else you got?
And then my second favorite one, we got Burns and Horschel over Kirk and Todd. Definitely like Burns and Horschel in this one.
Todd is not playing well.
Yeah. That seems like what's the line there?
-115.
Okay.
I still like the value. I thought it would be closer to -130 actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then just because we have On and M together against against Damon and Griffin at -125, it's just worthy of a little bet.
Wow.
He's got to lay a lot on him.
Wow.
No.
125, that's a lot of juice.
It's a lot of juice, but it's just going to be a little bet.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, what do you got in the matchup realm?
I haven't made any. The only thing I saw, I'd have to follow the guys that I think, have the best chance. So I saw Peters and Lewis over Noren and Norlander, which will make you happy, Aaron. But they're minus 120 in two different places.
That's a big number too.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I don't want to be laying that kind of price when we just don't know. Am I a fan of the Norlander group? Not at all. But I don't know. The Euro, it's tough with the Euros. The Euros are a close knit group, and sometimes they get it together. I would prefer if that matchup was against two kind of general Americans to lay 120. Spieth and Ricky. Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting one. But yeah, they'd be dogs against Spieth and Ricky. But I don't know. I think I'm going to lay off. I think I'm going to probably lay off in all the matchups unless something really just shoots out at some point. But for now, I'm going to pass.
Fair enough. I've got two myself here. The first one I've got Jason Kokrak and Perez. Kokrak making the podcast here at minus 110 over McDowell and Wallace. I know Matt Wallace has been playing pretty well, but I'm going to look for a fade on Wallace here this week. My second one, I'm going back to the well here, boys. I'm taking Dougie Gim and Sue. Yeah, Justin Sue. I'm taking Dougie Gim and Sue plus 105 over Wyndham Clark and Eric Van Rooyen.
Oh, interesting. Wow, that's a weird group too. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And I did look at that Kiz Brown minus 115 over Castro and Tringali, so that's why I'm willing to make the bet with you. So.
Very interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I have no opinion on any of these. I have no idea.
That's okay. I mean, like I said, we're taking flyers. I think Kokrak's been playing well, and Perez, that's true. Actually, despite missing cuts, is only missing them by a stroke. Like he's missing cuts that are like 2 and 3 under. So he's not playing poorly. So I'll take the Kokrak Pat Perez gamble over the one guy. I mean, Graham McDowell, whatever. Who's been, Matt Wallace has been playing well lately. So we'll see what happens there. All right, so Token. DFS a little weird this week.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. So you pick 6 pairings this week.
Okay. But you get 1 score for the pairing, right?
You get 1 score for the pairing.
Oh.
All right, let's hear what you got.
And a lot of them are really overvalued. So a lot of mediocre-ish ones from me this week. I actually had above average lineup.
So you're saying the favorites are also basement dwellers?
Yes, basement dwellers.
But there are some that are a little down, but there are a lot that I wouldn't put up there that are really overpriced.
All right, let's see what you got.
All right, so this week we got Horschel and Burns for 10.5K. We got Hoffman and Watney for 8,400.
Charlie Hoffman making the podcast.
Yep. And I like that Doug Gim and Sue, and I put in my DFS for 8,100.
My man.
Nice.
We got Tringali and Castro for 8K. And then we got Neeme Smith and Seifert for 7,500. And then to wrap it up, we got the winners this week. We got Laird and Nick Taylor for 7,300, leaving 200 on the table.
All right, and a boy.
The most interesting one I saw was Schwartzel and Oosthuizen. It was like 9,500.
I was about to say, I'm surprised they didn't make your lineup.
Yes.
No, way overvalued in that one.
Should have gone more with the Louis Oosthuizen, Ernie Els South African connection.
I will like that, or anybody else pretty much.
He's tearing it up on the Champions, from what I understand.
Yes. Yeah, he is.
So maybe bring him back to New Orleans for a week. All right, so to continue the light week, I know we have other tour action usually. It just seems like it's you this week, Mr. Johnson.
No worries. Yeah, so we'll try to continue on from the LPGA. We had a couple of good spots. We ended up winning. We only made one matchup bet. We ended up winning it, which was very, very nice with Nelly Korda, who, even though she didn't play well on the weekend, starting out 14 under for her first 2 rounds, had a lot of good thoughts, but just couldn't really close it. It was a birdie fest out there, so in Hawaii. But
so tell me about, sorry to interrupt you, but tell me about that. I've been reading a lot of stories on Lydia Ko here. It sounds like she's had kind of a Jordan Spieth-like tumultuous last few years.
That's a good description, I would think. Yes.
So as the LPGA guy here, talk to us a little bit about that before you get into the LPGA bets. Just like how good it felt for her to kind of get off the schneid there.
I would say, yeah, I think a very, very good comparison. Now, the only thing that I will note is it seems like with Lydia, it was more of age. It was more of just getting the accolades and the wins so quickly. She won so much as a teenager. She won multiple times as a teenager, a major, even when she was 19, that I think it was just so much so fast, and the expectations got so high, and it became a distance game a little bit too. Now we've seen that with Jordan Spieth as well, so that's why it's a great comparison, Aaron. That she felt like she needed to hit the ball further. She was seeing women like Lexi and Inbee Park and et cetera, hitting it so far, and the Cordas, for sure that she felt like she needed to try to keep up, and things kind of unraveled. Now, a little bit different, I think, with Lydia is we've seen Jordan on the course, kind of go awry, have these weird long discussions with Greller about shots and just constantly talking and just get in his own head. With Lydia, it seemed like it was sort of the stuff on the outside. It was the other distraction. She went through 5 caddies in like an 18-month span, type of thing, like stuff like that, where you're not really trusting anything. And it's clearly, some mental hiccups and issues as well, along with, trying to, go the distance game that I think she tried to simplify things now over the last couple of years. She's really tried to zero in on her iron play. She's worked a ton on wedge play, very similar to what Dustin Johnson has done over the last 2 or 3 years, and that seemed to pay some dividends. So, yes, I think it's a good comparison. It was just she won so early and so quickly. It's rare we see in any game, on any tour, that the number one player in the world is a teenager. It just doesn't happen very often in golf. So
Right.
I think it was that, and it was very, very hard to handle. But yeah, you're right, Aaron. A really, really big deal. I had bet on her a couple of times last year, and she wasn't able to kind of push through. But you could kind of see it go forward and forward. And then she kept, finishing in the top 5, top 10, and the numbers just didn't show up. She was 8 or 9 to 1 last week. It's just not bettable, I don't think, in that sense. So, yeah, but good on her for getting a win. And she's a classy player. She's all class. She's like, again, the great majority of these professional players. Always seems to give a good interview, always seems to be honest, and really, really likable player.
I saw a interesting stat, because that stuff kind of we turn the Golf Channel on. I work kind of a late swing night, and we turn the Golf Channel on. A lot of times it's either Euro or LPGA replays or live. And I saw an interesting stat with Lydia Ko. Her last 100 holes, she only had 1 bogey or worse.
Amazing. Yeah.
Crazy.
I didn't know that, but I mean, that's remarkable. Yeah. It was a birdie fest last week. It was nuts. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Turn the page to this week. So congratulations,
Absolutely.
Lydia. And let's turn the page to this week here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll go out in LA here. Now, this tournament came about 2 or 3 years ago, as actually one of our locals here, Natalie Gulbus, was one of the main purveyors of this tournament. She's from Southern California originally. And so she was the one that I think was able to push this through there. They played at Riviera, I want to say, or Los Angeles Country Club once as well, trying to get as many celebrities involved. And it's now moved a couple of times, a couple of different sponsors, but at least it's found a home in LA, which is good. They didn't have a Southern California event besides the one in Carlsbad, which I had, actually worked at, if you will, a couple of times. But it's nice to see, because LA, I mean, there's just so much great golf and spots in LA that, we're going to have a pretty wide open event again here, it looks like. I'm not sure it's going to be as short and as gettable as the spot in Hawaii, but certainly a course that is pretty straightforward. It looks like, from what I've seen, relatively workable from both sides. However you shape the ball should be good. So I think we're going to see some pretty low scores again. And I'm just trying to find some players here that have been playing well, that have at least, in the terms of, put together a few weeks in a row that makes some sense, whether it's here or whether it's somebody like Celine Boutier, who we'll get to in 1 second, who has now gone back and played a little bit on the Ladies European Tour and has a couple of really strong finishes there. Now she comes back here to LA. I think there could be something there as well, especially the number that she's getting for her talent-wise. So I've fired 5 of these so far, and we'll see what else happens. Actually, 4. I'm sorry. I fired 4 so far. 5th one I'm unsure about. So I'm going to go with Nelly Korda again. We got her at 11 to 1. She's now down to 10 pretty much everywhere, which is probably the more fair number, but I still think at 11, it was good enough to take a shot. She's the best player, in my opinion, in this field. I'll stand by that. There are some other issues. Does she struggle sometimes around the green? Yeah, for sure. But talent-wise, in regards to ball striking, when it's all together, she's really, I think, the class, really of the tour at this current moment. So I'm going to take Nelly when she's not a favorite in a field that is good, but it's not still the most elite of LPGA fields. We don't want to take Nelly here in double digits. So we got her at 11. Moria Jutanagarn at 50. We fired Jennifer Kupcho at I'm sorry, we have not fired Kupcho yet at 80. We fired Brittany Altamir at 125. And then the aforementioned Celine Boutier at 225 to 1, which I think is a really, really, really good number. Again, she's had a rough year on the LPGA Tour. Went back and played a little bit in Europe. I don't know if she's turned 20 yet. She might still be a teenager too. She might still be 19. I'm not quite sure. But really good up-and-coming French player. Long, lanky, full swing. Really fun to watch. When she gets it going, she's a lot of fun to watch too. So, yeah, I think those are the spots we're in here. I still haven't gone into the matchups yet. I'm going to get some matchups there for sure. But yeah, it's a good week. I think it's a good week on the LPGA, and that's what we got.
Nice. That's a packed week for sure. That definitely.
Yep.
So, all right, Tony. Tony. Better set your computer up for push-ups, brother. Remember, you have to give Tony Johnson credit because you tried to make an outlandish statement of Will Zalatoris being better than Colin Morikawa right now. So.
Oh no! Yep.
Right.
I ate my words pretty quick.
4 push. Zalatoris didn't play bad. It just
no. He's a very, very good player. I don't know if he's Morikawa. That's all.
All right, 4 push-ups there, sir.
Okay.
All right. By the way, if you can watch this on our YouTube channel, search Vegas Squares Podcast or hit the 12-Ounce Sports Network. There's 2.
Oh, nice.
3 and 4.
Oh yeah, that looked like not a sweat.
4 good push-ups.
That was good. That was strong, Token. I probably can't hear you yet. Okay.
He probably can't. He hasn't got the headphones in yet.
Sorry.
What was that?
I thought that was strong, Token. You made it look easy.
I've been trying to get in a little better shape.
There you go.
Like the upper body a little. So
love it. Very nice.
All right, we're gonna wrap.
Losing push-up bets will help.
Yeah, that will strengthen your core.
Any little bit helps. Yes, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
Let's hope you lose one this week. Go Scott Brown and go Kevin Kisner.
We'll get our guy John Parr back on next week, and I'll try to figure one out with John. Bets with John are always a lot of fun. So yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Totally fair. So, all right, that's gonna wrap it up here for the Zurich Classic Preview Show. We appreciate you listening, watching, tuning in. As you do every week. Again, catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're under the 12-Ounce Sports umbrella, 12-Ounce Sports LLC. And also you can search our YouTube, search Vegas Squares Podcast, or visit us at 12OunceSportsNetwork.com. Also, visit our sponsors page at lvsquares.com. I want to thank our sponsors again, obviously 12-Ounce Sports Network, Vice Golf, Fanatics, Heater Bet Tracking App, In the Hole Golf, and Pro-Am Customizations. Big shout out to all of them. Head over to LV Squares, click the dedicated link, support them so they can continue to support us. We greatly appreciate them. We greatly appreciate you. For Tony Johnson and Token Tony, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Enjoy the tag team event. We will see you next week.